That Heinz bottle sitting in your refrigerator right now is a complete illusion. It looks exactly like the product you grew up with, but the contents inside have been radically transformed. I spent nearly 2 months meticulously investigating the precise moments when America's most iconic grocery staples quietly abandoned real sugar for high-fructose corn syrup, traded fresh tomatoes for mass-produced paste, and replaced genuine spices with synthetic laboratory chemicals. And 5 of the biggest corporations in the food industry are absolutely dreading the release of this video. Number 1. Great value. This is not a criticism of budget shopping. Walmart serves millions of families managing tight grocery budgets, and that constraint is real and valid. But there is a bright yellow bottle with Walmart's house brand name that reveals exactly what happens when cost reduction becomes the only priority. Take a look at the label. Tomato concentrate, high fructose corn syrup, distilled vinegar, corn syrup, salt, onion powder, spices, and natural flavor. Count what appears before tomatoes. High fructose corn syrup is second, regular corn syrup is fourth. This ketchup contains more total corn sweetener than tomato. Standard corn syrup is composed almost entirely of glucose. High fructose corn syrup contains elevated fructose, which your liver processes differently than glucose and stores as fat rather than burning as fuel. Using both variants simultaneously doesn't just double the sweetness, it combines 2 different metabolic stressors in a single tablespoon. For families managing blood sugar, diabetes, or heart conditions, which describes a significant portion of Americans over 60, that metabolic difference compounds across every meal. Pour Great Value next to any premium brand. Great Value will not hold its shape for more than 8 seconds because it has been engineered for industrial production speed, not consumer experience or cooking performance. Great Value costs 11 cents per ounce. Red Gold costs 18 cents. Across an entire summer season filled with family barbecues and outdoor dinners, that price gap amounts to an aggregate savings of approximately $8.50 for a household of 4. That entire seasonal savings is less than the cost of a single lunch at Chick-fil-A spread across 90 days of grocery shopping. Without the artificial flavors masking inferior tomato content, Great Value ketchup would taste like sweet water with food coloring. That $8.50 buys you 90 days of laboratory chemistry instead of food. Number 2. Del Monte. There is a red shield logo that once represented partnerships with family tomato farms across California and the Midwest. Del Monte built their reputation by contracting directly with farmers who met specific quality standards for sweetness, acidity, and harvest timing. Today's Del Monte ketchup contains tomato concentrate, high fructose corn syrup, distilled vinegar, salt, onion powder, spices, and natural flavor. Notice the pattern: dual corn sweeteners, natural flavoring to replace actual spice content, and tomato concentrate instead of fresh tomato processing. Del Monte completely abandoned its historic farm partnerships in favor of purchasing cheap commodity tomato paste on the open global market. Commodity tomatoes are bred exclusively for shipping durability and yield per acre, not flavor. They are harvested by machine when convenient for transportation, not when optimal for taste. Without higher tomato paste percentages, commodity tomatoes produce ketchup with almost no natural tomato flavor. The natural flavors exist solely to convince your taste buds they are experiencing tomatoes when they are actually experiencing corn syrup with tomato-flavored chemicals. Lycopene, the antioxidant compound in tomatoes your doctor may have specifically recommended for heart and prostate health, degrades significantly under the ultra-high heat of industrial concentrate processing. The health benefit your doctor told you tomatoes provide does not survive the manufacturing process that turns commodity tomatoes into Del Monte ketchup.
Do this test. Open Del Monte ketchup and inhale immediately. Compare that to any premium brand opened simultaneously. Del Monte will have a flatter, more chemical opening note because the tomato aroma compounds have been replaced with laboratory flavoring designed to approximate the real thing. In 2011, a private equity consortium, including KKR, acquired Del Monte Foods for $5.3 billion. The same financial engineering that compromised Heinz, Hunt's, and French's has driven Del Monte through years of ownership changes and financial restructuring that have consistently prioritized balance sheet performance over tomato quality. Del Monte is not tomato ketchup. It is corn syrup with tomato-flavored chemistry. Number 3. Heinz. There is a distinct glass bottle with a Keystone label that has held a permanent spot in American households since 1876. When Henry John Heinz first established his company selling horseradish, he intentionally packed it in clear glass jars to prove to consumers that he had absolutely nothing to hide. It was a philosophy built on unadulterated ingredients, visible quality, and total transparency. Even the legendary 57 variety slogan was nothing more than pure marketing theater, cooked up by Heinz himself. There were never exactly 57 products in production. Heinz openly admitted he selected the number simply because he liked how it looked on trolley car advertisements. Yet for well over a century, that theatrical confidence was backed by an uncompromised, honest recipe: tomatoes, sugar, distilled vinegar, salt, and spices. Then came July 2015. Berkshire Hathaway and 3G Capital orchestrated a massive $46 billion mega-merger that gave birth to the Kraft Heinz Company. When a corporate conglomerate shells out $46 billion for a legacy brand, they have one singular objective: extract every single drop of profit possible out of deep-seated consumer loyalty. 3G Capital operates under a notorious playbook that they have previously executed on Burger King, Budweiser, and dozens of other classic food labels. Step 1. Acquire a beloved, time-tested American brand. Step 2. Systematically substitute expensive, high-quality ingredients with cheaper alternatives. Step 3. Maintain the exact same nostalgic packaging and marketing imagery so customers keep funding the buyout without ever realizing what they are actually swallowing. A recipe like this doesn't change overnight. That is never how corporate cost optimization functions. Instead, it occurs in microscopic, silent increments spread across several years. A slightly cheaper oil blend one quarter, a synthetic stabilizer 6 months later, and a subtle reduction in actual tomato solids the following year. Every single modification is meticulously calibrated to remain just under the threshold of consumer detection, engineered to be completely invisible. Here is the exact shell game Heinz is desperate for you to piece together. If you walk down the supermarket condiment aisle today, you will find two distinct Heinz products sitting directly side by side. The traditional red bottle your family has blindly trusted for generations now features high-fructose corn syrup as its second most prominent ingredient. Meanwhile, just 3 inches to the right sits Simply Heinz, proudly advertised as being made with real sugar, matching the original historic formula.
Heinz is fully aware they compromised the classic recipe decades ago, and they know the real sugar version is vastly superior. They purposefully kept the high-quality recipe alive for the small percentage of consumers who meticulously read nutrition labels, while leaving the degraded, cheaper formula in the iconic bottle for the masses who trust the brand name without looking. To make matters worse, Simply Heinz carries a premium price tag. They intentionally cheapened their flagship product only to sell the original quality back to you at an inflated markup. Since 2018, customer complaint forms have filled with identical warnings. It tastes aggressively sweet. The consistency is totally different than I remember. Burns faster when I'm cooking. My potato salad separated for the first time in 40 years. These shoppers aren't imagining things. Think back to the last time a family recipe didn't turn out quite right. Perhaps a ketchup-based sauce that turned watery, felt unusually thin, or tasted sickeningly sweet. You likely altered your cooking method, bought a different brand of mayonnaise, or blamed the quality of the produce. But the real culprit was the ketchup. High-fructose corn syrup simply does not possess the same binding properties as real sugar in cold recipes. It never has. Your cooking skills didn't fail, the ingredients did.
A groundbreaking study out of Princeton University revealed that laboratory rats fed high-fructose corn syrup ballooned with 48% more body weight than rats fed standard sugar, even when their overall caloric intake was kept completely identical, and developed metabolic syndrome symptoms the sugar-fed group completely avoided. The underlying issue isn't just about calories, it's about how the human liver metabolizes fructose fundamentally differently than glucose. Consider an average family's seasonal ketchup intake during summer cookouts, holiday barbecues, and weekend grilling. A highly conservative estimate puts consumption at roughly 6 tablespoons per week for every individual in the house. That adds up to 24 grams of HFCS weekly, or 288 grams across a 3-month summer window. That is nearly 1 full day's worth of the American Heart Association's maximum recommended added sugar limit for women from ketchup alone before a single dessert, drink, or processed food crosses your table. For the millions of older Americans managing elevated uric acid levels and agonizing bouts of gout, fructose, the specific compound super-concentrated in high-fructose corn syrup, is the ultimate dietary accelerant. Every squirt of HFCS-laden ketchup is an immediate metabolic trigger. Without calcium disodium EDTA, the cheap, heavily processed industrial tomato paste would oxidize within a matter of weeks, turning an unappetizing brown and developing off flavors. This preservative exists for one reason only: to mask the fact that real tomato content has been radically cut down to maximize corporate margins. The long-term physiological toll levied on your family during summer gatherings isn't an accidental side effect, it is the direct consequence of an aggressive cost-saving strategy calculated in a corporate boardroom. For households that have proudly featured Heinz at every milestone dinner for 40 years, this transcends a simple preference in condiments. It represents a systematic betrayal of public trust, driven entirely by predatory financial engineering. Heinz is no longer trying to make better ketchup, they are trying to make cheaper ketchup that your blind loyalty will not question. Number 4. Hunt's. There's a bottle with a California sunrise that represented West Coast quality for over a century. Joseph and William Hunt founded their company in 1888 with one specific mission: process the best tomatoes from California's Central Valley within hours of harvest to preserve peak flavor and nutrition. But watch what happened to the Hunt Brothers Company. In 1943, it merged with Velveeta Foods. In 1960, it was absorbed by Wesson Oil. In 1968, it was sold to Norton Simon Inc. In 1983, it was acquired through a corporate buyout by S-Mark. In 1984, it was swallowed by Beatrice Foods. In 1985, it was purchased by Wall Street private equity firm Kohlberg Kravis Roberts for financial engineering. And in 1990, it was finally dumped on Conagra for $1.36 billion. Every single changing of the guard triggered the exact same corporate cost-cutting cycle. Premium contracts with independent tomato growers were ripped up in favor of bulk industrial commodity paste. Hand-selected whole spices were discarded for cheap synthetic spice extractives.
Natural shelf life was artificially extended using aggressive chemical preservatives rather than relying on the inherent quality of the raw ingredients. Natural flavoring appears on today's Hunt's label. The FDA allows over 3,000 laboratory-created chemical compounds to hide legally behind that phrase. In reality, natural flavoring means an industrial chemist had to synthetically replicate the taste of a genuine tomato in a laboratory setting, because the actual tomato concentration inside the bottle is far too low to provide flavor on its own. Without those chemical additives, the commodity tomato paste would develop off flavors within weeks of production, because mass-produced industrial tomatoes carry significantly lower natural acidity than quality fruit. The chemicals are not there to protect a quality product, they are there to protect a cheap one. Do this test at home. Open a Hunt's bottle and a premium brand simultaneously. Hunt's will have a sharper chemical note in the first 3 seconds after opening. That is not tomato aroma,
That is laboratory flavoring designed to trigger the memory of tomato while your brain processes what you are actually tasting. If Hunt's has tasted different to you somewhere over the last 2 decades, your memory is correct. The tomatoes changed. You did not. Conagra's corporate infrastructure relies entirely on high-volume manufacturing throughput across sprawling industrial plants. They have zero interest in upholding the agricultural legacy of the Hunt brothers. They are simply extracting wealth from a historic brand name that 2 dedicated brothers earned 135 years ago. Hunt's is corporate food science wearing the costume of California farming. Number 5. French's. There's a bottle with a Canadian flag that gained popularity in 2015 when French's launched their Support Canadian Tomato Farmers campaign. The messaging was authentic, local sourcing, family farm partnerships, ingredients you could pronounce. Then McCormick & Company acquired French's in July 2017 for $4.2 billion. McCormick's business model is flavor optimization through chemical engineering. They are the world's largest spice company, but they achieve that scale through laboratory synthesis, not agricultural partnerships. Before 2017, French's sourced tomatoes from specific Canadian farms with established quality relationships. McCormick has quietly shifted sourcing to lower-cost suppliers across multiple countries while maintaining the Canadian production facility as marketing theater. McCormick introduced potassium sorbate and calcium chloride to extend shelf life through chemical preservation rather than fresh ingredient quality. Without these synthetic preservatives, the lower-quality tomato sourcing would produce ketchup with shorter shelf stability. Taste French's ketchup from 2016 versus today side by side. The current version has a flatter flavor profile and sharper chemical finish because McCormick's cost optimization has replaced tomato depth with laboratory efficiency. Notice what every one of these brands has in common. Not one of them is trying to make a better product. They are all trying to make a cheaper ketchup that looks and feels the same while you are not reading the label. Before we get to the brands that have not sold out, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.
Let's look at the alternatives, starting with number 1, Red Gold. In 1942, long before no high-fructose corn syrup was a marketing strategy, the Reichart family started Red Gold with one simple question: why does store-bought ketchup taste nothing like the tomatoes we grow? 4 generations later, the same family owns every decision, from seed selection to bottle labeling. They work exclusively with family farms across Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. These are multi-generational farming relationships, not quarterly commodity contracts. Red Gold, made with real sugar, contains tomato concentrate, sugar, distilled vinegar, salt, onion powder, and spices. No high-fructose corn syrup, no natural flavoring, no chemical preservatives. Red Gold contains 160 milligrams of sodium per tablespoon versus Heinz's 190 milligrams because they do not need excessive salt to match the chemical aftertaste of artificial sweeteners. When your tomatoes are actually good, you do not need to cover the flavor. Red Gold is specifically excellent for cooking applications because real sugar caramelizes beautifully and predictably under heat. High-fructose corn syrup, on the other hand, breaks down and scorches at much lower temperatures, leaving a bitter, acrid, burnt flavor across barbecue glazes and marinades. At 18 cents an ounce, compared to Great Value's 11 cents, you are paying a minor 7-cent premium to enjoy ketchup crafted exactly the way your grandparents expected it to be made, long before corporate food science existed. Red Gold proves ketchup excellence was never complicated. It just required someone who cared more about tomatoes than profit margins. Number 2. Primal Kitchen. In 2015, Mark Sisson founded Primal Kitchen with one specific question: why does every condiment aisle force families to choose between flavor and health? Kraft Heinz acquired Primal Kitchen in 2018. But here's what's remarkable: the acquisition has not compromised the formula.
USDA organic certification creates legal barriers that prevent the ingredient degradation that destroyed other brands. Primal Kitchen Organic Unsweetened Ketchup contains organic tomato concentrate, organic balsamic vinegar, salt, organic onion powder, organic garlic powder, and organic spices. No sweeteners at all. It is USDA organic certified, Whole30 approved, keto-friendly, and paleo certified. These are third-party verified standards that require consistent ingredient sourcing and production methods, not marketing claims without teeth. Without synthetic preservatives like EDTA, Primal Kitchen relies entirely on the natural, robust acidity of organic balsamic vinegar for shelf stability. This is how ketchup was preserved before chemical preservation existed. Some people love it immediately, others need one full use to recalibrate from industrial ketchup to the real thing. Either way, they understand what they've been eating for decades afterward. Primal Kitchen's natural acid preservation also means it holds structure in cooking applications where industrialized ketchups completely fail. The frustrating potato salad separation problem does not exist here. Primal Kitchen is specifically excellent for families managing diabetes or metabolic concerns because unsweetened ketchup eliminates the blood sugar manipulation that HFCS creates. Primal Kitchen proves corporate acquisition does not have to mean ingredient betrayal. It just requires legal standards that prevent it. Number 3. True Made Foods. In 2014, Joni Taylor Moore founded True Made Foods because she couldn't stop asking herself one question: why does children's ketchup need to contain added sugar at all? Instead of using sugar or high fructose corn syrup, True Made Foods sweetens ketchup with apple puree, carrot puree, and butternut squash puree. That provides 4 grams of natural fruit and vegetable sugars versus 4 grams of added corn syrup sugars. Your body processes these completely differently because the sweetness comes from whole fruit and vegetable purees rather than refined syrup. Your children's bodies process it as genuine food rather than a volatile blood sugar event. The label reads tomato concentrate, apple puree, distilled vinegar, carrot puree, butternut squash puree, salt, onion powder, and allspice. Every ingredient serves a nutritional purpose beyond just flavor. Paleo certified means it meets the strictest standards for avoiding processed industrial ingredients. No grains, no legumes, no refined sugars, no artificial additives. True Made Foods is specifically excellent for families with children because the vegetable content provides nutrition instead of empty calories, while natural fruit sugars create steady energy rather than the sugar spikes that make kids irritable after conventional ketchup consumption. True Made Foods proves ketchup innovation should mean better nutrition, not just better corporate profits. Number 4. Annie's Organic. In 1989, before USDA Organic was a mainstream marketing tool, Annie Whitty founded her organic food company with one question: why does processed always replace what's real? Her ketchup carries the same answer her original products did: certified organic, no synthetic additives, no compromises. General Mills acquired Annie's in 2014 for $820 million. But USDA organic certification creates legal requirements that have so far constrained General Mills from the same formula adjustments that compromised their other acquisitions. Annie's Organic Ketchup contains organic tomato concentrate, organic sugar, organic vinegar, salt, organic onion powder, and organic spices. USDA Organic means these tomatoes cannot be grown with synthetic pesticides or fertilizers, and the processing facilities must maintain strict separation from conventional production. Organic certification is not just marketing. It is annual third-party inspections, documented supply chain tracking, and legal penalties for violations. The taste is notably different from industrial ketchup: less sweet, more tomato-forward. Most families find this is the adjustment they did not know they wanted. Annie's is specifically excellent for families concerned about pesticide residues because organic tomatoes test significantly lower for chemical residues than conventional tomatoes. Annie's proves authentic food standards can survive corporate acquisition when legal requirements prevent ingredient betrayal. There you have it. The brands your family trusts most have been quietly reformulated by private equity firms and multinational corporations who see your loyalty as their profit opportunity. High fructose corn syrup creates more inflammation than sugar. Multiple corn sweeteners stress your pancreas more than single sweeteners. Natural flavors mask declining tomato quality with laboratory chemistry. Here is your rule of thumb for this summer. If the word syrup appears anywhere on that ketchup label, someone is using chemistry to fake what tomatoes do naturally. Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, glucose syrup, any syrup. Real ketchup does not need it. Go flip that bottle over now. Count what appears before tomatoes on that label, and when you do, you will understand exactly what this summer's cookout has actually been serving your family. Family-owned companies like Red Gold and innovative brands like True Made Foods prove that authentic ketchup is still available. You just have to know where to look and be willing to pay a few cents more for ingredients that serve your health, not corporate shareholders. Henry Heinz started with clear glass jars so customers could see exactly what they were buying. That transparency built a century of trust. This summer, flip the bottle and read what is actually inside. The answer is right there on the label.